today we're diving into Natasha Trethewey's Pulitzer Prize-winning poetry collection, Native Guard. We're going to zero in on one single devastating moment of history that becomes the heart of one of its most powerful poems.
It all starts with these 5 chilling words. I have no dead there. Now, what's so shocking is who said them. It wasn't an enemy commander. It was an ally. It was a profound betrayal. So who said it? And why does it matter so much?
So those words came from Union General Nathaniel P. Picture this. It's after a brutal battle, and the Confederates offer a truce to bury the dead. But when it came to the bodies of the black soldiers who had just died fighting for the Union, Banks refused. He just left them to rot on the battlefield. His justification? I have no dead there.
So that's the big question, right? Who were these men? Who were these soldiers that a Union general so callously refused to claim as his own?
Well, they were the Louisiana Native Guards, and they were the very first officially sanctioned all-black regiment in the entire Union Army. Most of them were formerly enslaved men who had escaped and were now literally fighting for their own freedom. But even within their own army, they faced this deep, pervasive prejudice. They were given the hardest manual labor, they got half the rations, and then in death, they were literally erased. Okay, so that's the history. Now let's see how the poem itself brings this moment back to life, not through some dry historical account, but through the raw psychological trauma of someone who was there. Trethewey doesn't just tell us what happened, she puts us right inside the head of a surviving soldier from the Native Guard. And he's not just remembering an event, he is absolutely haunted by it. The memory of his fallen comrades just left out there, unburied, it invades his dreams. And this simile, wow, it is just devastating. The soldier's eyes are compared to those of fish washed ashore. Discarded, worthless. It shows you the sheer depth of their dehumanization. And yet, their eyes are fixed, staring back. They refuse to be forgotten. They demand to be seen. And the speaker points out this really bitter irony. In life, he had all these unfair masters. Slave owners, of course, but also the Union generals who treated his comrades like they were disposable. He says the only fair master he's ever known is death itself, the one thing that makes everyone equal.
And this really gets to the core of the trauma, doesn't it? I mean, witnessing death in battle is one thing, but to witness your comrades' sacrifice, their very existence being actively denied and erased, that's a whole other kind of psychological wound. The dream becomes this relentless reminder of a truth that the world is trying to bury.
So why this poem? Why this particular piece of history? For Trethewey, this entire collection, Native Guard, is an act of memorialization. She's building what she calls a metaphoric monument for 2 profound and deeply connected losses.
You see, Trethewey is doing 2 things at once here. She weaves together the public historical trauma of the Native Guards' erasure with this intensely private trauma, her own grief for her mother, who was tragically murdered. The book itself becomes a monument for both of them, making this powerful argument that any story denied, whether by history or by violence, it demands a witness.
And you can actually see this idea right on the book's cover. This image of a cross-hatched manuscript where you can see one story is literally written over another one, that's not just a cool design choice. It's a central metaphor for this whole project of reclaiming history.
She has this term for it, cross-hatching. In the poem, the soldier who is telling the story finds a journal that was taken from a Confederate home, and he starts writing his own story over the existing text. He is literally rewriting the dominant narrative to force his own silenced experience into the record. And then she takes that metaphor and makes it gut-wrenchingly physical. The soldier compares the lines in the journal to the whip scars on his back. His own body is a historical document, marked by violence. And so the act of writing becomes an act of reclaiming that story from the trauma that created it. So when you put it all together, you realize this poem isn't just about documenting a historical wrong. It's actually becoming the very thing those soldiers were denied, a permanent monument. Let's look at the actual physical monuments for a second. On Ship Island, where the Native Guards served, there's a bronze plaque put up by the Daughters of the Confederacy that lists Confederate soldiers. There's nothing like that for the Black Union soldiers. Trethewey's poem just confronts this reality head-on with that stark line, "Some names shall deck the page of history, some will not." And that right there is the whole point. It's the real power of this work. Where monuments made of stone and bronze have failed, or maybe worse, have told a one-sided story,
poetry steps in. The poem itself becomes the lasting memorial, a record of truth that can't be ignored or washed away.
And that leaves us with a really powerful thought to chew on. Trethewey's work shows us that history isn't just some dusty collection of facts. It's a story that we all choose to tell and retell. And by actually listening to the voices that were silenced, we don't just learn more about the past, we completely change our understanding of the present.